So recently on the channel we talked about a recent leak that we got for the next Legend of Zelda game, and it's from a pretty reliable source. So now there's a lot of things that we could see for the next Legend of Zelda. Let's talk about it. Let's get straight into it. So starting everything off, we know that this game is going to be an open world game. If you look at the sales record from the Legend of Zelda series, you'll know that the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are the most sold Legend of Zelda games by a long shot. You stick them together and you outsell every other Legend of Zelda game, so we know that's going to be happening. We also know that this is going to be using the same engine from the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Now, hold on to your horses. Just because it's using the same engine doesn't mean that it's going to be the same game. Because if you look at the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, these are completely separate games. And besides, it's also been confirmed that we will not see this Hyrule. This Hyrule has been retired. Goodbye. After Age of Imprisonment, that's the last game that we are going to be on that Hyrule. So it's safe to assume that it's going to be completely gone. So now, with this open world adventure game, what exactly is going to be happening? Now we know that there's going to be something about mixed dimensions. Now this leads you to believe one thing. The Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds could be seeing some sort of 3D game. Now, this would be a next brand new Legend of Zelda game, but taking inspiration from A Link Between Worlds. Now, this would be really interesting because A Link Between Worlds really did the cross-dimension or the cross-world really well. Because essentially, it was an open-world 2D game. You were able to pick what dungeon you wanted to go through first. It wasn't just like your typical action dungeon crawler game. You were actually able to make the decision on what dungeon you wanted to tackle first. If you wanted to go and fight the burger, well, you could go and fight the burger first. If you wanted to do the water temple, you could do it. There's so many different ways to do that game, and this would work well. Now, if you look at past open world games, dungeons don't really typically work very well. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was a prime example of how not to do dungeons. But it looks like this time around, the dungeons are going to have a specific debuff. So either the dungeon is, let's just say, is floating in the sky or something like that. You can, however, go anywhere you want, but maybe you lost all your weapons, your paraglider, and all of that stuff. So you're pretty much doing like Trial of the Sword, for example. So this would definitely be a very, very interesting idea on how you can do the Legend of Zelda dungeon. Another way that you could do it is have high gravity, so you won't be able to jump and you have to move, you know, kind of like you're doing some sort of 2D game where you can't jump. So that could be a way that you could actually do a dungeon. There's so many different ways that you can do a dungeon in an open world game. It just so happens that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom weren't great dungeons. They could have made them in so many different ways, and I think it's going to be awesome. It looks like potentially the mastery weapons will be returning. Now what I mean by mastery weapons is of course the hook shot, the bow and arrow, and your weapons that don't break. So it looks like we are going to be seeing different weapons inside of some that will break, like your common weapons. Let's just say you got a bokoblin sword that will break. An iron sword will also break. But then when it comes to one of those super special weapons, like let's just say it's going to be the hook shot, that will not have a durability. So when you go into different dungeons, it's going to feel like a more traditional Legend of Zelda game. You go from one dungeon, you find the unique weapon of that dungeon, and you pretty much get to keep it forever. So in regards, it feels really special in so many different ways. You get your special powerful weapons, and at some point they could maybe even implement something that allows you to upgrade that. So kind of like the Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds, where you were able to go and talk to the octopus fella and say, hey, can you upgrade this? And sure enough, he's going to upgrade that. Either it does more damage, cooldown's better, or maybe has extra range. There's so many different possibilities for this to happen. It seems like this Legend of Zelda game isn't going to take the sky into consideration, so it's probably just going to be your plain gym sort of open world game just to try it out. So overall, it's going to be pretty interesting, I would say. Now, the next thing that I wanted to mention is characters, customization, abilities, and all of that stuff. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom had pretty good characters, and the story was okay. I know that there's a lot of people out there that didn't like the story of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I honestly thought that that was a cinema viewing experience. I really did enjoy the story. I thought that the characters were really expressive, like Zelda. Link, I mean, didn't talk, but hey, they were still really expressive, and it felt great to just sit back and relax. Especially when you have every other memory, you were able to just click on the memory and watch them through the entire storyline. Of course, they could have done it in different ways, but I think this works really well for an open world game. Okay, so if this is going to be happening, how is this going to implement in the next Legend of Zelda game? Now, I don't think they're necessarily going to do memories anymore. I think that the memory thing, Link loses all his memories somehow every single time. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I think it's going to be something like you're sort of just a standard person, and eventually maybe you're training with the Royal Knights, and it sort of, you activate the story. It kind of comes into a memory, like a thing that just activates the story, or maybe there's going to be something like books, but instead of just books, you click on the book and it plays a little movie. Who knows how this exactly is going to work, but I think the story is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a different variation of what we got from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So overall, it seems to be really, really cool. Now, the characters themselves, you're probably going to be playing as Link, where you're able to just, you pretty much wake up, or you're, of course, working at the Knights training thing, and then all of a sudden, boom, some darkness starts to happen, and what the heck do you do? Maybe you get some rubies, you go and buy yourself some clothes, you find some clothes, whatever the case may be. That's probably what's going to happen. We're probably going to be seeing the return of Zelda, of course, Ganondorf, because you can't really have a Legend of Zelda game without those three. The assembly of the Triforce, essentially. And speaking on the Triforce could actually return in this game. Now, I think the Triforce is definitely a really cool thing. It's a really cool piece to the story, and usually in the past couple of Legend of Zelda games, we didn't really see the Triforce. Sure, Zelda had the Triforce, but you weren't necessarily able to wield the Triforce. Now, this would be a very interesting thing. We know that in most Legend of Zelda games, Link does have the Triforce of Courage. So what if there was an ability that surrounds the Triforce of Courage? Maybe you use this and you summon a knight or something that would either make the game easier or harder, however you would want this. Maybe you can make an adjustable slider that would change the difficulty for the game. If you wanted a hard Dark Souls-like Legend of Zelda game, well then change that slider and don't use the Triforce, or make sure that it's set to hard mode or something like that. It'd definitely be a very interesting thing. I do enjoy the unique mythical weapons like the Bow of Light, where maybe you need the Triforce, or you need to complete the Triforce to get the Bow of Light to get the full juice of the goddesses or something like that. I always think that the upcoming Legend of Zelda games and the theories and the features and things that we could see is really exciting. I love the Legend of Zelda series, and I think that it's honestly the greatest series of Nintendo as a whole. The story is so good. There's so many different ways, unique ways to play. Possibilities are endless, and honestly, replayability is off the charts. Overall, it's a really exciting thing, so the next Legend of Zelda game seems to be heading into a cool direction. Now, what about abilities? How are you going to traverse the land? Now, there's two ways that they could do this. They could either give us some special abilities like we got in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where you had magnesis to solve puzzles. But what if, instead of that, maybe you make your own abilities with the Triforce, or for example, with different weapons that you collect throughout the world? Maybe this could happen. Overall, I think that it's going to be an exciting thing. It's too early to say when exactly this is going to happen, if it is going to be happening. But overall, I think that it's an interesting thing, an interesting point of view on what could be next for the Legend of Zelda series. Anyways, what do you think about this? Do you think that some of these things are going to be happening? This seems really interesting. Cool leaks, data, and stuff. What do you want most in the next Legend of Zelda game? Do you want it to be non-open world, or just 3D map, 2D game? Whatever the case may be, it's the 40th anniversary this year, so maybe we're going to be seeing a sneak peek like we saw in 2019, or with the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom trailer. Overall, it's really exciting. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Consider to hit the like button, maybe subscribing if you are new. I would really appreciate it. And with that being said, see you in the next one. Hope you have a fantastic day.